So ultimately, the way that we see it is that why would not God carve somebody out for you? Why is it that God will just leave it by happenstance, that you, with your limited knowledge, you that knows in part, you that, with filters, with, with our various, issues and our various, I guess, lack of even future awareness, that God will just say, well, you just do this thing, do as you please. Without his wisdom and counsel. And if you begin to say that you rely on the wisdom and the counsel of God, then we have to be able to look at this quite precisely and know that if we're inviting God in to have a say in regards to who we're going to be with, he isn't going to lead you to 5 people.
That's right.
So when God leads you, he leads you to one. Say to your neighbor, one person.
One person.
So if he leads you, he's clearly not going to take you to Samantha, Rebecca, all the other sisters in the church. Clearly there's going to be somebody that is best aligned to you. Now, one of the most popular things that comes up when it comes to the one is, okay, what if that person that God has called me to be with doesn't respond to the call? Okay, so in that case, what if Jesus didn't respond to the call? What would have happened? And again, I think a lot of these things come back to our understanding of God's sovereignty. God knows the end from the beginning. Before God can make a promise, before God instituted marriage, and also God is, for many of you that believe you're called to be married, it means that God has also had a plan for you in your marital status as well. So why would we separate the natural workings of God in all other things and not apply it also to marriage? So clearly, if somebody had the ability and to just say, okay, no, I'm not going to choose this person or whatever, then clearly, if that is what ends up happening, and it's not the will of God.
It's not the will of God.
If somebody says that they don't perceive you to be who they're called to be with, and then further down the line they get married, then clearly there's a bit of misalignment with your hearing.
The person that's married is not for you,
yes,
because they're married, which means that they're for somebody else.
Yeah.
So this concept that, well, I believe that they're the one, but they're just being disobedient. No. That is you wanting to put your will above God's will. If they are for you, it will come to pass. And that's just the fact, and we've seen that in every relationship we know. It can be that the guy likes the girl, she don't like him, but down the line, because they're actually called to be together, God works the circumstance and they do come into alignment and they come together. So, God has his hand in it, and we shouldn't think that it's almost a case of we shouldn't think that we know better than God. And I think that sometimes in this area of relationships, we think we can do better than God can. And the issue I think we have more than anything in terms of doing better than God is the timing. Oftentimes we're really concerned about the timings of God. It's later than we want, and we don't really want to wait. So then we begin to say, oh, actually, well, I'm 25. I guess I can just choose. I just have all these choices. Let me just find someone that's compatible and go from there. Yeah.
And also, even though when we're talking about God's sovereignty, there obviously, as we said, there's still a level of choice, but in that choice, you're just like in everything you're doing, you're choosing his will, you're choosing his wisdom, you're choosing his discernment, you're choosing his way. So, there is an element of choice, but that choice is lined up with you being led by the Spirit. We choose to follow him, we choose to die daily. So, again, there shouldn't be a separation in this area of your spouse and who you're called to be with. This is an area that, yes, there are many questions. So don't think that this is the summation of the video, but one thing to take away is that there is somebody. If there's 5 people that you're interested in, you're not going to marry all 5 of them. You can only marry one. So that means that if you've married one, if you're going to rely on God's wisdom, God will always be able to point you to a particular person. Now, sometimes as well, I feel like sometimes people go through experiences and they don't understand what happened. And rather than sitting with God and saying, actually, God, I really believed, or, what actually happened, they begin to just form doctrine that, this couldn't be that I got it wrong. It couldn't be that I maybe was misaligned. It couldn't be. It just has to be that, there's just no such thing as
the one. There's just options.
You know, so I think it's just really key. And some people say, you know, where is the one? Is the one in Africa somewhere, and I'm here? And it's like, well, you know, if you're in your season to be married, number one, if you're in the season, then that means that God would have brought that person, or be bringing them into your proximity. So number one, if you're not in the season for marriage, then you know you don't really need to be thinking so much about the one. You need to be the one, but that's another video that we're gonna cover. Again, you need to be the number one, and you need to be the one. That's the primary thing. But once you are the one, i.e., a wife, or you're going to a place where you're able to be a husband. Now you can begin to see that, okay, I'm in the season. You know, the person must be in my proximity. If there's someone you like, then, you know, that potentially could be the person, you know, and obviously we journey with the Lord to you know, just discern. And obviously everyone that comes to a level of, you know, marriage, one of the primary things is being able to hear God.
Yes.
You know, you can't, as a husband, you can't lead a family if you can't hear God. 100%. You can't support a man if you're a husband if you can't, you know, hear God. So one of the things you would have had just a level of is being able to hear and discern God. And in that way now, you know, whether it be your, you know, sister A is, you know, in the choir and you've just been seeing her and, you know, you got feelings, or maybe it's sister B who you guys just talk a lot and, you know, you just get on well, or maybe it's sister C where, you know, you don't really talk at all and you're just seeing from afar, but you're really just having a strong sense that, you know what, I just feel drawn to this person, I just feel attracted. Even attraction, that's another thing, but you know, you just take courage and just be encouraged that when God has ordained marriage and you know that you are called to be married, that He will make a way and He will make it very plain to you who you're called to be with, and you can have all confidence. There's not really confidence when you're going about doing your own thing, 100%. And we know that the Bible says be led by the Spirit. It didn't say be led by the Spirit minus marriage, minus your spouse. It just said be led by the Spirit. And what's more important than, you know, God calls a person to work for Him, and the person you're going to be with contributes 100% significantly to your marriage, because when you're married, there's no coming out. You're bound to your wife, you're bound to your husband. So the work that God has called you to do is very important to the Lord. And before He gave you the work, He gave support, He gave provision, He gave the resource for it. And part of that resource is clearly going to be a spouse.